Hi guys, Mark Singleton here. Before we get started, let me just go ahead and point out, you'll notice this left eye is a little red. That's because sometimes the line of work that I do, some bad people refuse to comply and they make a significant statement, and shot to the eye was the statement that I took. So it'll be red for a couple of weeks, but I'm going to survive, and so I want to make sure that no one thought that I had been drinking all night in preparation for this assignment. Folks, this is great. I love doing this stuff because I love history. And probably there's no better way to introduce what I want to discuss tonight than to talk about a great Prussian general by the name of Helmut von Moltke. Now, von Moltke was the great German general staff and architect of three major campaigns that permitted the unification of Germany in 1871. He believed fervently that the only way you can understand war is to dissect it, is to take it apart. And these parts have to be examined. To that end, he directed not only that a section of the general staff devote its energies exclusively to the study of military history, but that all general officers and all general staff officers drawn from the cream of the Prussian officer corps travel to battlefields, study the plans made by the commanders, and relive the battles on the actual ground where the fighting took place. Moltke believed that his officers would better understand if they understood the interdependence of the commander's plan, the logistical considerations, morale factors, and so forth by thrusting themselves on the battlefield. And in that same vein, as students of history, I would suggest we do the same thing. We take a staff ride. Since I'm from South Carolina, obviously, I'm going to recommend probably the turning point of the American Revolution, which is the Battle of Cowpens, which is up near Spartanburg. Now, nothing would be better than to tell you about this because, again, this changed everything. And the momentum switched from the British into the Americans or colonial forces right after this battle. Now, the significance of this battle was the fact that Tarleton, Bannister Tarleton, Lieutenant Colonel type, one each of the great British Army, was lured into fighting Dan Morgan. Tarleton had about 1,000 troops. I want to say that Dan Morgan had about 2,000, but the significance is Dan Morgan had his forces arrayed in depth. So he would draw Tarleton's forces in. As they came in, they would hit one layer, and they would be attrited, and they would get further deep into the center, at which point you'd find that Dan Morgan would conduct this double envelopment, basically encircle him and almost annihilate him. In fact, Morgan only lost 20 killed and 69 wounded, but Tarleton's forces were almost annihilated. I think out of his 1,000 troops, there were probably only about 200 that managed to escape, to include Tarleton himself. Now, to get a better feel for this battle and what took place, I took a look at three books. The first is Cowpens, 1781, Turning Point of the American Revolution, written by Oscar Gilbert. The second is The Battle of Cowpens by Kenneth Roberts. And the third book, which I loved, and which, if you've got time to read it, is a great book, Lawrence Babbitt's A Devil of a Whipping, The Battle of Cowpens. Now, the significance of Cowpens, as I said, it's the turning point of the war, is Tarleton's brigade was almost wiped out. And coupled with the British defeat at Kings Mountain, which is in the northwest corner of South Carolina, this action basically compelled British General Cornwallis to pursue the main Southern Army into North Carolina, leading to the Battle at Gifford Courthouse and Cornwallis's eventual defeat at the Siege of Yorktown in Virginia in October 1781. I've taken battlefield studies and battle rides when I was in the Marine Corps many times. I've walked the battlefields of Gettysburg and many of the Revolutionary War and Civil War battlefields, and I can tell you there's nothing better than to take a day and walk to these places, walk through these places where the actual fighting took place, and you get a sense of what it was like to be there and can kind of put yourself into the shoes of those that fought there. There's nothing more exhilarating for me if you study history, and I can tell you that there's nothing that is more satisfying than having walked a battlefield where American history was made and really get the full feel of what it took to create this country of ours, this great country of ours. And I think it would be a most enjoyable ride, and I think it would be one that would be most informative. And hopefully one day we can do it. Thanks.